broadcast. Meeting
Got
is
it.
live streamed. And as soon as we have that live stream going, and we
It's
are
going, Dean.
We are going. Everybody, good morning. Good morning, folks who are in the auditorium. Good morning, folks who are joining us through the airwaves. It's great to see everybody. We are at Community Church of Boston. My name is Dean Stevens, and I am called the interim administrator, but mostly I like to play guitar, and the best thing of all is I like the job of programming music in this space, both for live presentations as well as for Zoom presentations. And this is why this morning is a very special pleasure. I want to mention to you that we have printed a program, a Sunday program, for the first time in 2 years. So it's pointing towards good news. We invite you to, well, not after next Sunday because we're closed for the summer, but we're not closed for the summer because we have a bunch of things going on, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Next Sunday is our very last formal Sunday presentation, and it's a really interesting program. We celebrate Juneteenth with a talk from Judge Gregory Williams. He's a retired district court judge from the Cape and Islands, and he does several historical presentations, among them Sacco and Vanzetti, Lizzie Borden, and this one, it's called Slavery in Antebellum Massachusetts, the Rule of Shaw. And I don't know exactly what that is, but it has something to do with a guy named Lemuel Shaw. And I'm sure it has you all scurrying to your history books or your Wikipedia to find out. But we're gonna be instructed about Lemuel Shaw. We also have music that day, very apropos, from Matt Callahan and Yvonne Moore. They join us from Switzerland, and they have just published a book and a CD that's all songs from early 19th century abolition movement. We pre-recorded it yesterday because unfortunately they can't be with us live. They're traveling from New York to Deerfield, Massachusetts that day, right during that spot. But we're really looking forward to our last program next Sunday, celebrating Juneteenth. And I want to tell you about a couple more things. You remember last week we had Jonathan Katz, who was talking about Smedley Butler and this biography that he just wrote of Smedley Butler, that Marine. He was the highest rank, but not commandant of the Marines in the late 19th and early 20th century. And in 1935, he took a huge turn and started denouncing US's imperialist wars all over the planet. And this book takes you to all of those places. It starts in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, and Smedley Butler is among the troops that take Guantanamo Bay, Spanish-American War. Then it goes to the Philippines, and it has this kind of back and forth between those places today and those places when the invasions happened. Then it takes you to Nicaragua and to Cuba. It's a marvelous book. We went with in a back and forth with Jonathan Katz. We said, oh, we want you to talk about this book. Smedley Butler spoke here. And he said, oh, that's great. When did he speak there? And I went back and looked at the archives. I couldn't find when he spoke here. And I had to go back and eat crow and tell him, well, in fact, he didn't speak here. And the reason we said he did was because there was a dramatic reading of his pamphlet that's called War is a Racket that was read here in the late 90s by two actors. So we realized that he hadn't spoken here, or we thought he hadn't spoken. Yesterday, I was going through that archive that's a document that we've put together that is a complete compilation of the speakers from 1921 to 5 years ago. This summer, we're going to actualize it and bring it to today. And we were looking at, again, Smedley D. Butler spoke here in 1936. So I get to go back and tell Jonathan Katz, in fact, we were right, and then we were wrong, and then we realized again that we were right. So anyway, I'm going to be really short on announcements because we are very excited about this program. Don't forget, anybody, that after this program at 1 p.m., you can go off and have lunch at home, or you can join us here for pupusas. Luis Guzman has brought us pupusas from Chelsea, made by our dear Carla and her mother, who's named Marta, and they cook for us sometimes. And this is Pupusa Day. I want to tell you about more about pupusas, which is that we are going to have a new little thing, which is that Wednesdays at lunch we have an event that's called Pupusa Palooza. And on that day, you're invited to come here and have lunch and get a tour of the church and of the building. And you can see all our efforts to turn this into a state-of-the-art model for the city of Boston in energy efficiency and sustainability. All the things that we're doing, both in the last 2 years and into the future. And it's a very exciting thing. You can also take a look at the Bob Datilio Library and Archives. We have a room that's right now dedicated completely to his research, many primary sources of correspondence of Sacco and Vanzetti to a lot of different people and places. Lots of every book that's ever been written about Sacco and Vanzetti in several languages. We invite you to come down here on a Wednesday and get the tour. You can also see our archives, 102 years of the disorganized but on their way to be organized archives of the community church. 102 years, and I'll show you the proof that Smedley Butler did speak here. I promise. So, a couple of little notes on members. I want to let you know that Diane Lehrman. Ron Shapiro and I visited Diane, and not doing too well. Please keep her in your thoughts. She's in a nursing home in Quincy. We really remember this incredibly stalwart, long time member of the church. Her husband, Marty Lehrman, was our programmer for so many years. And then there's Ron. And that's Ron Shapiro. And I want to tell you that Ron just had a delicate procedure this past week. He came out of it. The reason I mention him is that he and I went to visit Diane. The other reason is just a point of incredible pride and emotional celebration is that Ron's husband, who's named Alex Escobar, became a US citizen. And this is a picture of them at the citizenship swearing in ceremony. This is, I can't think of just a more moving moment. And I didn't mention that in our yearbook that we prepared for our annual meeting. We should add that to our edited edition. There's a couple other typos too that we'll get through. As a really key moment in our life when Ron's husband, Alex Escobar, became a US citizen. Okay, next week, join us physically at Community Church for Greg Williams. Greg will be here physically, just like today's presenters are here physically. Greg is coming up, and again, we'll give him the tour of the Bob Datilio Sacco and Vanzetti Library, also the mountain of books that Bob we inherited from Bob that haven't really been cataloged and turned into a marvelous library that we will eventually have on our third floor, and some of it here on our first floor next to the Sacco and Vanzetti plaque. So lots of exciting things. Folks, this is my pleasure and opportunity to introduce these wonderful performers that are doing an unusual presentation. They haven't been here in 16 years, decade and a half plus, And we welcome them back to our stage because their material for today is part of Community Church's DNA, and it's Sacco and Vanzetti, and it's the Rosenbergs. And there's 2 different operas and several different compositions that they will tell you about. There's a lot of biographical material about all 3 of these that I'm not going to be able to cover, just because I just look forward to hearing from them and shutting up so they can take over and take us, transport us into a different classical operatic realm. And we're looking forward to hearing Leonard Lehrman, Helene Spearman, and Christopher Helene Williams. I'm sorry, Helene Williams. And Christopher Lemke, who is Remkus, who is joining them. Christopher is an NEC graduate, lives here in town, and is also from Long Island, as they are. Enough of my introductions, and we put the camera on them, and we welcome them with our applause and our virtual hands up in the air, everybody on Zoom. Thank you for being with us.
Dean, remember to switch the sound.
Yes.
Okay.
No, wait. Sorry. We're hiring a guy who's going to do all this stuff for us. Yes.
Here is our song to begin.
Our song to begin. We thought that we ought to have a song to begin.
In which I get to flounce and show my raiment.
Please don't confuse the bounce with entertainment.
It's
Just a song to begin to say how you been.
the water is fine,
So why don't you come in?
we're recording, so try not to cough.
Won't you please turn your cell phones off?
And let's check the
Levels of the mics so the needles don't pin.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing ABC.
Testing XYZ.
Testing 1, 2. Oh, up there. We're on the air. And that's our song to begin. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to hear us live and online. That first song was written for us by a Jewish Viennese cabaretist named Gerhard Bronner, who had temporarily fled his homeland twice to escape anti-Semitism. Once in the 1930s to Palestine, when he fought with Hitler, and then in the 1990s in Florida. We asked him to write music for us to a Frank Lesser lyric that had been published posthumously called My Opening Song, which he did. But he warned us about Lesser's
The volume is really low when you're talking. You have to be closer to the microphone.
Standard U.S. musicals into Viennese German. He told us about dining with Lesser and his wife at one of Vienna's best restaurants after the German premiere of How to Succeed, when you translate it, and how she was complaining. She went to the bathroom, whereupon Lesser said to Brunner, "You know what George S. Kaufman called my wife? The evil of 2 Lessers." And sure enough, she refused to let us use her husband's words. So we wrote our own, a song to begin. Now, we're very pleased to be back here at Community Church Boston for the 7th time, but for the first time in 60 years. Our very first performance here, December 11th, 1988, was thanks to the late Sarah Sue Koritz. Yes, an old friend of my parents, even before I was born. She and they had lived through the judicial murders of Sacco and Vanzetti and Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, and they knew the connections between them. They were also strong supporters of unions and civil rights, and which are the subjects of the next 2 songs. My father took me to the August 28, 1963 March on Washington, and was also a friend and colleague of Carolyn Goodman, whose son Andrew was murdered in Mississippi, registering voters a year later. 10 years after that, Edith Siegel, who became known as the poet laureate of the Rosenberg movement, wrote a song about him and his 2 friends, Michael Schwerner and James Chady, who were martyred with him. It's a song not so much about them as about the anxiety felt by their families back home. This is the first of 3 of her songs that we'll be sharing with you today.
There were three patriots, black, white, Gentile, Jew. Their names forever shall be known to all who learn the love they knew. Michael Schwerner, 24, James Earl Cheney, 21, Andrew Goodman, 20. It was the time of the great campaign, the voter drive in the Ku Klux South, the free spark hope in hungry homes, in bitter homes, in silenced homes. One day the brothers disappeared. We waited long. We waited long. Where are our brothers gone? Oh, tell us, tell us. Where, oh, where? We fear the answer. Into the night they vanished, gone, gone, gone. Oh, Andrew, James, and Michael, our brothers. In our sorrow we shall never know, never know. Waiting for them to tell us, in our hearts we know the answer well. Our dead seek silent sing for our brothers slain for freedom. Sing their names and tell their story. Sing for our brothers slain for freedom. Sing their names and tell their story.
Oh, yeah. Presente.
That went on and on. Say their names. They've been written yesterday. So, though she was only a teenager at the time, Sue Corrins told us that she was present at the historic 1937 premiere of Marc Blitzstein's The Cradle Will Rock, a morality play that extols unionization as a kind of messiah. Leonard Bernstein conducted the first Boston production at Sanders Theater in 1939. My production at the Loeb Experimental Theater 30 years later was Boston's second. When Bernstein heard about it, he said, "I'm glad somebody at Harvard still has taste." This is the title song, sung by the hero, Larry Foreman. On the top of the bough, beyond a tree now, like bees in their hives, the lords in their lackeys and wives, must get rockabye in a nice big cradle. And they remark, the air is chilly up there, the sky beetle brown, can there be a cloud over there? And then they put on their hands to feel stormy weather. A birdie ups and cries, boys, this looks bad. Down and use your eyes, the wish you had. That's thunder, that's lightning, and it's gonna surround you. Don't wonder those storm birds seem to circle around you. Well, you can't look down and you can't sit still. That's a storm that's gonna last until the final wind blows. And when the Blitzstein, like the Rosenbergs and my parents, was proudly secular, but also proudly Jewish. In this first solo from my 1988 Rosenberg cantata, We Are Innocent, based on the Death House letters, 1953, Ethel, in her prison cell, spells out what Judaism meant.
My dearest, I was conductor of the so far today. Something on this grim stark grayness, luring Jewish verses. Truly, I am proud of my inheritance, while ancient people who have made an eternal contribution to mankind, and with whom I shall ever be privileged to be identified. I am thinking now of the darkened streets of the Lower East Side. Early morning throngs will be hurrying to the synagogues to pray. I earnestly hope their prayers are answered. Yet life has taught me that theory without practice can be a pretty empty, meaningless gesture. Service simply cannot cause no peace and goodwill and tranquility, or peace and humanity. So big to be. We must not use prayer to an omnipotent being as a pretext for evading our responsibility to our fellow beings in the daily struggle for social justice.
Now we're going to hear another aria sung in a prison cell.
You have to be closer to the microphone when you're talking.
1959, when he began writing what he called his magnum opus, the opera Sacco and Vanzetti. He was thinking, wrote executed this 6 years earlier. This was the only aria that he completed in the opera before he himself was murdered in a gay bashing incident. incident in Martinique, January 19th. It's Sacco's expression of longing for his wife, remembering the days of their courtship, drive their lives, their son Dante, and daughter Inez. Sung for us by our guest tenor, formerly of Long Island, now Jamaica Plain, Christopher Remkus, who will be performing the role at its New York and orchestral premiere at Union College in the Bronx, September 10th and 11th. I want to show this. Can the camera see this? Yes, sir. Chris Remkus as the Sacco, and it's also starring Helene Williams and others. And I'll be conducting and will be directed by Lee's son, the general director of Marc Blitzstein, Benjamin Spearman, who I think is on the phone with us today.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so here is the aria with a woman to be, from my perspective.
Microphone, please fix the microphone for the sound.
With a woman to be, with a woman to be, with a woman to be. With a woman to be, and never more be sad and lonely. On a Sunday day, get dressed the finest way, go ring her bell, and she put on her hat. We take a walk, go by Milford Park, feed the pigeons with a woman to be, with a woman to be, with a woman to be. We come back home, very tired, we sit on the steps of her apartment. She asked me in, I opened the door, and she go in before me. She go in the kitchen, I stand and wait in the vestibule till she say, she is wearing a blue suit. She don't take off her hat. Her shoes, brown shoes, they make her looking nice. I see how she look and how she is pretty. But you close my mouth, I cannot to speak. Open up my mouth, I have to speak. Rosa, tell me yes, I want to hear yes. She says she don't know, she need time, she must think. with a woman to be, with a woman to be.
Bravo, Chris. I want to say that that was the only aria that was completed, also started many others. And that piece was performed the first time in April 1964 at the Bengal Philharmonic Hall, an orchestra conducted by Bernstein and somebody album. And Bernstein said that he was going to complete a number of Bernstein's operas, and later asked that he announced that the opera, that the score had been lost, and it was found. But he thought it was lost. And he talked about finishing, having someone else finish it, but he gave it up because all he saw in that was the musical sketches. He didn't look at all of the jottings that Blitzstein had made in the huge library of materials about Sacco and Vanzetti Sept, including a book, two books by Herbert Ehrman.
Herbert Ehrman.
You know him?
He's part of this church, really, and his wife is on that list of Sacco and Vanzetti awards.
Sarah, right. Well,
Ehrman,
it was
yeah.
Herbert Ehrman that convinced Marc Blitzstein that despite all of the ridiculous other evidence to the contrary presented by Francis Russell and so forth, that the defendants were in fact absolutely innocent. In fact, that the rally personally there. In the back of Ehrman's book, in the appendix, which gave chronology of events, Marc Blitzstein wrote a sketch of how he was going to finish. How he was going to write the opera, Act 1, Act 2, and 3. And only from that was it possible to deduce how the opera was intended to be written and how then I was able to spend 25 years finishing it. So Herbert Ehrman was a key figure, and I just learned on Wednesday when I met Michael Dukakis for the first time in person. Governor Mike wrote a beautiful letter that's in the program from the premiere of this opera in 2001.
Here it is, a message from Michael Dukakis, and on Wednesday he signed it in ink for the first time. And he told me that Herbert Ehrman and Sarah Ehrman were his neighbors in Brookline and were in fact very influential, not only on Marc Blitzstein's opera, but on Governor Dukakis's proclamation of exoneration. So we can remember Herbert and Sarah Ehrman here at Community Church. Now, one more prison song, this one written by our beloved Edith Siegel, which Helene sang every year at meetings of the National Committee to reopen the Rosenberg case between 1987 and 2010, including here in 1988. It was at a recent Community Church of Boston meeting on Zoom that I learned the committee had, the National Committee to reopen the Rosenberg case had been dissolved after the New York City Council officially declared Ethel's innocence. But I dare say there's more work to be done on Julius's behalf as well. He too was innocent of the crime for which he was convicted and executed, namely atomic espionage, as has been clearly demonstrated in the Final Verdict. This is a book by Walter Schneer, which I and others on the committee helped his widow Miriam Schneer publish. And we've been in touch with Miriam. She attended our March 1st Zoom concert and recalled how my father had dated her sister-in-law when she was in high school. So we're all mishpacha, we're all family. And we also met Governor Dukakis, as I mentioned, this past Wednesday for the first time. He's been a supporter since 2001. We're going to do Edith's most famous song as a duet, channeling and personifying Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. What shines from your cell to my lonely cell, my loved one? What shines from your cell to my lonely cell, my loved one?
Your eyes like bright stars shining through prison bars. Your eyes like bright stars, my loved one.
Oh, if I could bring, what would I bring, my loved one? If I could bring, what would I bring, my loved one?
I'd bring a red rose, and my heart I'd enclose. I'd bring a red rose, my loved one. And if I could speak, oh, what would I say, my loved one? And if I could speak, oh, what would I say, my loved one? I'd say I love you, our love's old, our love's new. I'd say I love you, my loved one.
And if we could sing, of what would we sing, my loved one? If we could sing, then what would we sing, my loved one?
We'd sing of the light that comes out of dark night. We'd sing of the light, my loved one.
Will our children laugh? Will we hear them laugh, my loved one? Will our children laugh? Will we hear them laugh, my loved one?
We know it will be
For the people, and we will fight till we're free, my loved one. I mentioned earlier that Blitzstein was proud of his Jewishness, though in fact he only came to that pride in the last years of his life, when in 1962 he was invited by the American Jewish Congress to, and attended, a conference in Israel, where he was working on Sacco and Vanzetti, and then when he was teaching at Bennington along with the writer Bernard Malamud. Malamud's stories inspired him to start a series of one-act operas to be called Tales of Malamud, like Tales of Hoffman. With Malamud's and Bernstein's approval, I completed one he left unfinished and then wrote two more of my own. This is a number from Idiots First, which was first premiered in April 1964 with an orchestra conducted by Leonard Bernstein, sung by Jose Ferrer, with what the New York Times called a Yiddish accent that would have made a row of blintzes stand up and salute. I told that to Ferrer, or I mentioned that to Ferrer, and he said first he thought it was an insult, but he realized it was a compliment. This is a story song told by the protagonist, an old man named Mendel, to his son Itzhak, who's 35, but with the mind of a 3-year-old. And I'll be singing both parts. Story, how I met my new grandfather. Story, I was maybe 9 years old. That my older Baba got married again. Came one day, she sent for me, I should meet him. I go up the steps, my heart was knocking. My grandmama opened the door. She was little, not bigger than me. Come, he said, if he waits for you. Dark is down the hall and long. And there he sits in the kitchen way back, not a move, the face is still, it sits there. Fierce the nose and fierce the mustache, fierce eyebrows too. This bandit my grandmama wed. Then she pushed me on him and she said, here he is, your grandson Mendele. Such a fear, Kinder, what a thing is such a fear. You could die from only fear. Now, in me, my heart, it stopped. He took a whole day before he turned around, glared on me and spoke. Do you smoke? I was now so scared that I could not dare to lie. Ayo, I nodded the head. And he held out a big hairy hand. Then he said, give me a cigaretto. Such a fear, Kinder, what a thing is such a fear. Ooh, cigaretto. It's a, you know, you don't smoke. So, you see, I had to finish the opera, which I did. It's had 4 productions. In 1978, it won the first Off-Broadway Opera Award for Most Important Event of the Season. Helene sang the only female role in the 1992 orchestral premiere with Center for Contemporary Opera. Now Helene's going to sing and play the castanets in one more song by Edith Siegel, the oldest song on this program, dating from the Spanish Civil War against Franco and fascism. This is relevant to the Rosenberg case, of course, because a collection can to help the Spanish refugees was presented in evidence against Ethel to show what a terrible communist she was. It was a premature fascist, they called them those days. A premature anti-fascist, right? So here we are, Underneath the Spanish Stars. Right?
Oh, I dreamed of Spanish gardens, senoritas and guitars, Spanish moonlight, lovers dancing underneath the Spanish stars. And I fancied I would go there, quite romantic was I then, to dance a click the castanet, lo recuerdo muy bien. Oh, I never stopped to think at all that there was a war. Stain my pretty Spanish shawl and break my sweet guitar. And now I think it's time to waken and my drink. Excuse me, I have this frog sitting in my throat. Now we're going to start it again.
The whole piece?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm ready now. Oh, I dreamed of Spanish gardens, senoritas and guitars, Spanish moonlight, lovers dancing underneath the Spanish stars. And I fancied I would go there, quite romantic was I then, to dance a click the castanet, lo recuerdo muy bien. Oh, I never stopped to think at all that there might come a war, stain my pretty Spanish shawl and break my sweet guitar. And now I think it's time to waken into my dreaming of romance and join the anti-fascists to halt Franco's advance. And when that's done, we'll dance again, and we'll sing and strum guitars, and live again and love again underneath the Spanish stars.
Helene hasn't sung that in a while, though one of the most memorable performances we ever did of that was at Merkin Hall with Edith Siegel playing the castanets. That right toward the end of her life, 1990. It's on YouTube actually, 1991. Okay. So, two more excerpts from Sacco and Vanzetti, which I completed based on words and music by Blitzstein. The first is a setting of Vanzetti's most famous statement as taken down by New York World Cub reporter Philip Stong, who later wrote the book that became the Rodgers and Hammerstein film musical State Fair. The music recurs at the end of the opera when it underscores the words of Governor Mike's proclamation, which has been translated into Italian and engraved on an 8-foot monument that stands over Sacco's grave in his hometown, Torre Maggiore. Following Vanzetti's last statement, Helene will sing a setting I wrote for her of the Boston Common rally speech by Mary Donovan, the secretary of the Sacco Vanzetti Defense Committee. The text is actually drawn from Boston, the novel by Upton Sinclair, which used primary sources. Mary was, of course, Irish, and the music is based on an Irish hymn that Blitzstein wrote for Juno, his musical based on Sean O'Casey's Juno and the Paycock. So first Vanzetti, and then Mary. My friend, you believe we will die. Don't take it too hard. If it had not been for this thing, I might have lived out my life talking at street corners to scorning men. I might have died unmarked, unknown, a failure. Now we are not a failure. This is our career and our triumph. Never in our whole life can we hope to do such work for tolerance, for justice, for man's understanding of man, as now we do by an accident. Our words, our lives, our pains, nothing, the taking of our lives, all that last moment belongs to us. That last moment belongs to us. That agony is our triumph.
Niccolo Sacco, Bartolomeo Vanzetti, working men and dreamers of the brotherhood of man that you hoped to find in America, we to be done to death by the children of those who fled long ago to this land of freedom, which has become the greatest of blue names will live in the hearts of the people, while the names of those who murder you, the judges, the governors, the scholars, bastards, will go down into everlasting shame. We'll recall your names.
Okay. So before we end the program with a final trio from Sacco and Vanzetti, one more solo from Tales of Malamud. This is a monologue sung by the father in my opera, Suppose a Wedding, based on Bernard Malamud's only published dramatic work, which he called A Scene of a Play. That could, of course, mean one scene out of a larger play or a play in one scene. He left it ambiguous. It's a Suppose a Wedding. The character is a retired Yiddish actor putting a would-be suitor of his daughter in his place by reciting a parable from Ansky's play, The Dybbuk. So, you know the story of the rabbi and the rich man? No. Well, I'll tell you. He was rich and a miser. The rabbi took him to the window and said, "Look, what do you see?" The rich man looked and he said, "What do I see? I see the street. What else should I see?" "What's in the street?" asked the rabbi. "What's in the street?" said the rich man. "People, they're walking in the street." Then the rabbi took him to a mirror in the room and he said, "What do you see now?" "What do I see now? What should I see now?" said the rich man. "Naturally, I see myself, of course." "Aha!" said the rabbi. "You will note in the window is glass, and there is also glass in the mirror. But the glass in the mirror has silver painted on the back. And once there's the silver, you stop seeing everybody else and you only see yourself." That could be a motto of the Community Church of Boston. No kidding. Okay, so I last sang that number here in Boston on December 1st, 1995, at a symposium held by the National Opera Association Convention on the subject of Sacco, Vanzetti, and Blitzstein, attended by our wonderfully supportive friends, Blitzstein biographer Paul Talley, Sacco Vanzetti expert Bob DiTilio, and historian Howard Zinn. The piece came at the end of the session, and I remember vividly Howard saying, "Thank you, Leonard. That was worth waiting for." So I hope you found everything that we've done here worth listening to, waiting for. And now we'll conclude with a number which is a kind of a dramatic apex in the middle of the Blitzstein-Lehrman opera, a trio between Sacco, his wife Rosa, and Vanzetti in an adjoining cell, longing to return to their hometowns in Italy, Torre Maggiore and Villa Folletto. In the summer of 2000, as I was working on completing the opera, Helene and I visited the graves and the families of Sacco and Vanzetti. That's when we saw that incredible monument with Governor Mike's exoneration speech translated into Italian and engraved in stone. And on the train from Villa Folletto in the north, Vanzetti's hometown, to Torre Maggiore in the south, Sacco's hometown, we passed the beautiful coast of Amalfi. And it suddenly dawned on me that one of Blitzstein's most beautiful songs The Hills of Amalfi. Here it is. From his urban folk opera, Reuben, which took place in New York's Little Italy, but never got there. It opened and closed in Boston in 1955. The song of the Hills of Amalfi could be adapted with the words changed to My Torre Maggiore and My Villa Falletto. So Helene and I sang the piece as a duet at a concert we were invited to give at the Scuola di Musica in Sacco's hometown, and they gave us a plaque. Here it is. Città di Torre Maggiore, provincia di Foggia, a Leonard Lehrman e Helene Williams per l'opera lirica Sacco e Vanzetti dalla città natale di Nicola Sacco, and it's signed at the Torre Maggiore, 7th of August, and il sindaco, the mayor, Matteo Marola. So that's an heirloom at this point of pride. And that was the origin of this song as a duet. And then, of course, I made the piece into a trio, which Chris and Helene and I will sing for you now. One second. Okay.
Oh, Sina, I see my Torre Maggiore, my father, my mother, you bring back to me.
Soon we will go.
I see my Villa Falletto.
The sad country lives in your eyes, Rosina, in your mouth, Rosina, and
I live again.
Smile for me then, Rosa, and my Torre Maggiore is mine.
Myra, I see my Villa Falletto.
My Torre Maggiore,
Oh, bring back to me. One day we'll go Villa Falletto. Our beauties relived
in your eyes, Rosina,
And your mind, Nicola.
and I live again.
smile for me then. And my
Villa Falletto will shine
Very illustrious members of the audience.
Let's see how we do this. Thank you, all three of you. This has been a really marvelous and just unusual moment for us, and it's just so in tune with our passion about our martyr patron saints, Sacco and Vanzetti, and of course the Rosenbergs. We can have a conversation with all of these folks. I will go back to the other microphone and take it from there. If we'd like to send special greetings to Governor Michael Dukakis and also Ben Spearman, who's on the call with us today. We apologize about some of the technical issues. It just so happens we've brought on Amar Ahmad to our staff to help us with this very issue that comes up, which is how to do this thing, physical programs and virtual programs with elegance, grace, and style. And probably right there would be best, Leonard.
I can't
But-
see the screen from there.
Let me just tilt the screen. Okay, take the mic with you.
You take the mic.
Okay. We will point the camera at you. And maybe I'll, the first question from me.
Sure.
First, I gotta frame the camera at y'all.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Here we are. Okay, great.
Well, just tell us more about Marc Blitzstein.
Sure. Marc Blitzstein has been called the father of American opera in the vernacular. He was a tremendous influence on Leonard Bernstein, who consulted Aaron Copland on most of his instrumental work, but Marc Blitzstein on all of his theatrical work. Trouble in Tahiti, which is Bernstein's one-act opera, his masterpiece, was dedicated to Blitzstein. I think I mentioned earlier that Blitzstein's first masterpiece, The Cradle Will Rock, was done by Leonard Bernstein without score, out by heart, at Sanders Theater in 1939, and they became very, very close friends. In fact, Blitzstein was the godfather of Bernstein's first child, Jamie. His second child, Alexander, was named after Alexandra, the ingenue in Blitzstein's Regina. And his third child, Nina, was named after the heroine played by Evelyn Lear in Reuben. I mean, they were that close. I met Bernstein on December 2nd, 1969, just a month after I'd done The Cradle Will Rock at Harvard. And he was supposed to conduct a choral rehearsal for the Beethoven Ninth with the BSO that night. He cut the rehearsal. He stayed up talking with us until 3 a.m, and mostly about Blitzstein. It was incredible learning about him. And so I never knew Blitzstein, but I knew his sister, and I know his nephews, and have been in touch with them. And Marc Blitzstein,
Book about it, right?
I wrote the biobibliography about him, the longest biobibliography of an American composer. Yeah. I'm sure it's there. Bob is in there, of course, because he spoke at the symposium, which is written up there that I mentioned in 1995. And Leonard Bernstein told Richard Flusser of the After Dinner Opera Company, which is sponsoring this production, by the way, that he said Leonard Lehrman is Marc Blitzstein's Dybbuk, meaning that I would not accept the unfinished promises as unfinishable, uncompletable. I've been completing his works since 1970. And Idiot's First was the first one, and Sacco and Vanzetti was the most recent. Well, there have been 19 others in between. Sacco and Vanzetti took 25 years. It was performed at the White Barn Theater in Westport, Connecticut in 2001, just before 9/11. And although everybody who came, all the critics who came raved about it, with 9/11, it became just about impossible to get an opera company to do a work with the anarchists were the protagonists and law enforcement were the villains, until the immigration issue was raised during the Trump administration, and all of a sudden people were interested again, because after all, the issues in the Sacco Vanzetti case are those of what was then perceived as race, and now is understood to be xenophobia, as well as fear of anarchism and communists and so forth. Blitzstein was thinking of the Rosenbergs when he wrote Sacco and Vanzetti, because the Rosenbergs refused to name names. And there's a character in the Sacco Vanzetti story, Celestino Medeiros, who was executed with them, a young Portuguese man who confessed to doing the robbery that Sacco and Vanzetti were convicted of, and said that they were not involved. But he refused to name names. They demanded that he name the Morelli gang who actually did it, and he wouldn't name names. So they executed him with Sacco and Vanzetti. And in a way, it's ironic because when Blitzstein was killed in January of '64, he was killed by Portuguese sailors. And what was he doing talking to Portuguese sailors? Well, he's probably trying to pick them up as rough trade. But my theory is he was looking for a characterization of Celestino Medeiros, the Portuguese character that he never wrote any music for, and which I found music for in searching in folk collections of Portuguese music. So this is all connected, you know. So I didn't mention the most important, perhaps the most significant work that Marc Blitzstein did, which was that he translated the Threepenny Opera. And that his translation is the standard translation. There were dozens of others since then, but it ran for what was then a record off Broadway with Lottie Lenya, who was very close to him. I met Lenya, I interviewed her in 1970, and her eyes just lit up when she talked about Marc Blitzstein. He wrote a song for her called Few Little English, which we've recorded and has been done a few other times and places. Blitzstein and Weill were born the same day, 5 years apart. Blitzstein offered to translate some of Weill's work, and he turned him down, the Eternal Road in particular, to his eternal shame, I think, is that he would have done a magnificent job. But Blitzstein did a terrific job on Threepenny Opera, also on Mother Courage, with music by Paul Dessau. Got in a fight with Eric Bentley, which I helped resolve actually in 2005. It was finally produced, and it really deserves more productions, that translation. There's also a translation of Mahagoni that Blitzstein was working on. And he wrote an article in Time saying I'm real gone on Mahagoni. He really wanted to do it. And we have done some excerpts from it, but it is not the Kurt Weill Foundation, which has taken over half of the Blitzstein estate, has not given their okay to do the whole thing, which I think is a shame. It really should be done. So there's a lot more of Blitzstein. This will be the orchestral premiere. There's a lot more Blitzstein that hasn't been done and needs to be done. And the Kurt Weill Foundation supports works by Blitzstein that he completed, which are actually very few. There are so many more. There are 21 that I completed. They won't support that. That's not part of their mandate, unfortunately. So we're left to our independent resources.
Leonard, it's Mike Duke.
All of these names that Leonard just talked about figure in largely in this Bob Datilio collection of books. I'll tell you, in that corner, there happened to be many boxes of books on theater and film, and Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill and Eric Bentley that you mentioned figure largely in his collection. And upstairs, all the music books, biographies of conductors, composers, musicians it's just enormous. And I invite any of you to come and have a look at what hopefully will be a really rich library of Bob Datilio's books. And I want to just sure. I want to recognize Governor Michael Dukakis, who's in our midst, and maybe even make him big for you.
Hi, unfortunately, folks, I've got to jump off. Kitty is not feeling well, and I've got to go back and take.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Governor.
Thanks very much for inviting me.
Just appreciate who you are and your work, and we hope to have you back down here again soon. I know that the last time you were with us was at Bob Datilio's memorial Zoom, which happened about a year and a half ago. Right. So welcome. And
anyway,
thanks so
much.
Thank you, Leonard and Helene, for bringing you to us.
Right. Well, thank you.
Would you like to say hello to folks?
Hi. Sorry, I got to leave you.
Got to unmute. That's all.
Wife, but just wanted to say thanks. Sacco Vanzetti was a big part of my life, as many of you know, in terms of trying to redress.
You're still muted, Governor.
And just thanks for inviting me, and look forward to staying in touch. And love listening
I think
to you guys in particular, and thinking about that story once again. It's
he's unmuted.
an important part of my early life, I can tell you.
What, is it about us?
So thanks so much. And Kitty sends her best. Sorry, we gotta
Oh boy.
get back to taking good care of her, but
There we go. Okay.
it's been a wonderful morning.
Do we have you now, Governor?
Say again? Say again?
I'm just gonna,
You hear me? Can you guys hear me?
No.
No? Okay.
he's unmuted and we don't have you in the.
Anyway, thanks a minute. Really appreciate it. And
Why
look
not?
forward to
Just
staying in
turn the
touch.
microphone.
Appreciate it.
Turn the microphone. Anyway, it's a pleasure having you with us here. Anybody else want to say hello to our distinguished guests, and any questions or comments? Dick Kashishin. Dick Kashishin for the first.
I remember my dad used to mention her name. Was she the secretary of the Sacco Vanzetti committee?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, because he used to always say Donovan, but not his first name. That's okay. It's the same. He marched in part of the funeral in 1927. 1927, he marched about halfway. He didn't go all the way to Forest Hills, but he marched from here to maybe Northampton Street.
What's your dad's name?
Kishishian.
Is the last first name?
Dick. He was same name as mine. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're Armenian.
Yeah.
This is Dick Kashishin, who is about to retire after 25 years of service as clerk of this congregation. And we are in deep gratitude to Dick for all those years of incredible hard work. Jerry Kaplan. Yes, and that's somebody else I'd like to acknowledge, who is not much one for the camera, but boy, if you knew the work that Jerry is doing here at Community Church, curating and organizing the scholarship of Bob Datilio and getting it ready for a repository, possibly the Boston Public Library, possibly the Labadie Collection in the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and possibly NYU. There's a lot of materials, and we are slowly discerning where they should go. So I just want to take this chance to thank Jerry for joining us and doing that really difficult work. It's described in our yearbook, which we're giving out right during our annual meeting, which follows this presentation. A couple more announcements. Ben, would you like to say hello? He is muted and his camera is not on, but Ben is unmuted. Go ahead, Ben.
Hello, it's good to see everybody. Great to see Governor Dukakis on there for a few. But yeah, great to see such a nice.
I'm sorry, Ben.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah, let's get the sound for you. Okay, how about now?
Yeah, I was on.
Yes.
Was on. Hi, just saying hello and great to hear you guys over there in the corner there, Leonard and Mom, and to hear all that terrific material. And Chris, you too, you sound great, and great to hear from the governor a little bit.
Yeah, we're having trouble with the sound for the governor.
Yeah, it's a bad cable that goes to the PA system, but we got you, Ben, and thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Who else? Can we see who else is on the?
I mean, it's very cliche to say hi, Mom, but you know. Hi, Mom.
That's great.
I really need a haircut. This is terrible.
Yeah, and especially, I'm sure Mom is going to get on you about that.
Yes, Mom will have some.
Sarah. Hi, Tilly.
Hi. Can I say something, please?
Absolutely. There you are, Tilly.
Okay. This has 1953 was the year that I marched from Boston. I had come to Boston. We marched for the Rosenbergs. And then in that August, I got married here at Community Church. So this is a special meeting, the Rosenberg and the Dukakis thing. And I should also say that as a teenager, Boston, Boston, the novel by Upton Sinclair was one of the things that changed my life, reading that. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. And again, I also want to appreciate Governor Dukakis, who I worked for in public health, but who was also the neighbor of my boss, John Wyan, who first told me about the governor and said, there's a nice young man running for state representative. And they were neighbors. And my boss, John Wyan, taught me the ethics of healthcare, which is that profit is immoral in administering medicine. But I want to thank, this has been quite a piece to see you, see this on Zoom. And I'm joining you actually from Cape Cod. I'm 50 feet from a lake. So, but thank you again. And I really appreciate seeing the governor and also the program, and my sympathy on Zoom. You should take lessons from an organization that I work with, where we Zoomed from Boston, Cape Verde, and Lisbon together, and so. And yeah, locally and amateurs.
Well, thank you for joining us from Cape Cod. We were just in Provincetown, Cape Cod, for the first time this week, and saw the John Reed House and the Eugene O'Neill plaque and John Dos Passos. It was a very, very nice experience, actually. That's our first experience with the Cape.
Well, a couple of miles from here, there was a very old left colony group, and yes, Jack Reed spent time there. It isn't just P-Town. I happen to be in Sandwich.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So this is, say hello.
Hello, hi. This is Jay. Yeah.
He's a student of Helene's on Zoom, whom she's meeting in person for the first time.
Yeah. Tell us your name. My name is Jay Hu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay Hu.
From Lexington.
Yeah, right? From Lexington.
All right.
Okay.
We have several members who live in Lexington.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Jay Hu brought flowers to congratulate a wonderful cast of folks who
give one to him.
For us. Let me just run down a few things coming up. If I could, I want to tell you that next week, as I said at the beginning, is our last program, Juneteenth. Somebody's phone. Is that, I think that's Ed Pazanisa's phone. It'll be done in a minute. Juneteenth is our last program. Greg Williams is a retired judge from the Kaplan Islands who will tell us about slavery in antebellum Massachusetts, the rule of Shaw. The musicians who will join us are Matt Callahan and Yvonne Moore, who live in Switzerland and have done a program of abolitionist songs. Also want to tell you, July 10th is a few summer things coming up. July 10th is memorial for Carolyn Poinelli of blessed memory. I see it. I see it. July 10th, I hope you will join us at 1 p.m. to remember Carolyn Poinelli, maybe the most faithful attendee to community church over many years. I want to tell you about August 23rd, which is when we will remember the execution of Sacco and Vanzetti with an event that that we're organizing in conjunction with the Sacco Vanzetti Commemoration Society. We're just getting going on organizing that event, which we hope that to take the mantle of Bob DiTilio and really take charge of organizing that event every year. Also, another really interesting program on September 9th that is 3 authors. The book is called Talking to the Girls, and it's about the Triangle Shirtwaist disaster. It's recently published a book by Edwidge Giunta and Anne-Marie Trasciati, with a lot of involvement of our friend Michelle Fazio, who is deeply into Italian-American studies and into Sacco and Vanzetti. And we're looking forward to their presentation on September 9th. We're doing a Zoom event with them. Also, October, we have another event, a gathering of Bob DiTilio's friends on the 2nd anniversary of his passing. And this will be a physical gathering. It'll be just a really interesting pleasure to invite like 25 people who called in after Bob passed. And it was just a remarkable assemblage of artists, musicians, photographers, scholars, and I'm sorry? I hope we can stream that. Yeah. We're hoping October 9th. Yeah. We're just putting together next fall's program. The other last thing we want to talk about is a major gallery exhibition that we are going to mount right here in this auditorium. Everything will come off the walls, and the walls will be beautified by the paintings of Diane Esmond, the mother of our friend Victor Wallace. This is a really important post-impressionist painter, lived in France, moved to the United States during World War II, went back to France and lived out her life there. A bunch of her paintings were confiscated by the Nazis. The ones that were returned will be here, as well as a whole bunch of her other paintings. And Victor and Inez have very magnanimously offered to say that all proceeds from the sale of these paintings will be to Community Church of Boston's construction and let's call it deferred maintenance projects that we're deeply involved in. So keep your eye open for that. We've got a lot of stuff coming up here, and I hope you will join us as an attendee, or even better, join us as a member. This is our membership book. It has about 40 years worth of people who have joined Community Church. We welcome you to join. It's not any kind of commitment of any kind. It's just a statement that you guys are cool, and I dig what you guys do. That's all you have to say, and sign it. There's a stuffy thing that's called the bond of union that you have to agree to as well. But it basically is saying that, and that gets you the privilege of getting a window into our workings here and our social justice activism, and our wonderful staff. Crystal Rollins Jackson, who put together our first bulletin in 2 years, and hopefully many more in the fall. Luis Guzman, who who does our meals and also is our janitor, Thurman Judge, just rolling up the credits kind of to begin our annual meeting, which starts at 1. And I hope you will join us for that meeting and lots more. Of course, Zin Li Zhu, who's our bookkeeper, and many other volunteers who have done incredible work in this building and for our program and for our mission. We have one more hand up, and that would be Dan Kontoff. Dan, I will make you big and invite you to say hello. There he is.
Hello.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, hey, so I just want to invite everybody to the Charlie posted it, is our annual on July 4th anti-imperialistic picnic, because a lot of us don't support the way the things are going all over the world as opposed to war, greed, capitalism, women's rights, human rights, guns. And we have a picnic for those who don't want to go and celebrate July 4th, because we don't. Anti-imperialistic is saying July 4th, it should not be a holiday on what it's based on. So we get together for people who believe in real social change. On the Charles River with live music, we have food and people bring in potluck, 4 grills, 2 vegan and 2 not. A lot of people bring beer, and that's fine, as long as you chill about it as an adult. Most of us are, and wine. And we have it right by this beautiful tree usually. And we're inviting everybody because it's a people's picnic for all people. If you have any musicians who want to come play music, we have a sound system. We'll have like 3 easy up tents to keep you in the shade if you need the shade. And if you want to help out, join us in cooking and working the tables, the food tables. So you're all invited to July 4th, a way to celebrate a better world and to work towards it and meet new people to work on it the next year. So join us this July 4th. I don't know what year it is, annual. We've been doing it for years. Anti-imperialistic picnic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I'm sorry I forgot to mention that in that list of events, and we will be heartily advertising that event as well. We have Alan Clemens with us here, right in the room. Alan.
Hi. Hi, everyone. So I'm late. I was driving. You might look at the camera. Oh. Okay. So anyway, I was late, and but I want to tell you, I heard your performance, and I was just blown away. I was in my car. I was in a traffic jam on 128.
Oh, you heard it in the car?
Yeah. Well, so I just have to tell. This is a tech thing, right? So I'm on the Zoom call on my phone. Now, plugged into my jack on my phone is an FM transmitter that transmits to my car stereo. And I have a pretty good car stereo. So what I heard was you on my car stereo, like as loud as I could go. And I was just smiling and in some really bad driving. I just really thank you so much. It was a delightful performance. We'll nominate you for the community church Tonys or something, you know. the year's best. And that means you have to come back and get the award. You see. So, you know, yeah.
The community church programs are marvelous.
Yeah.
I attend as many as I can when I'm not in church myself,
Yeah.
Playing the organ. But Dean, we've seen each other at least a dozen times in the last 2 years. But this is the first time in person, isn't it? First time.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I mean, in the history, of course, not just the music, but it was just really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're coming to the conclusion of our formal show, and we'll have a little time to have lunch and reconvene in a half an hour or so. I'm sorry we can't send the Zoom attendees a pupusa by 3D printer, but that's what you get for not being here physically. But please do, we'll just leave the Zoom on, and please, if you need to get off and come back so we can have our annual meeting and give a report on the year's progress and on the year's disappointments. Everything is there. And so we can distribute our yearbook and we can elect our new officers. So it being between Memorial Day on July 4th, and my having found this beautiful song by Jean Rowe, I want to just end with this little alternative national anthem. How about it goes, Atlantic to Pacific flow, the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, the land between sustains us all to cherish her, our noble call. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire and lift our voices from the fire. We came from many distant lands. We came with hungry hearts and hands. Some came by force and some by will, to the auction block and the darkened mill. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire and lift our voices from the fire. We died in your fields and your factories, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees, an old coat hanger in a room somewhere, a trail of tears, an electric chair. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire and lift our voices from the fire. And our great responsibility to be guardians of our liberty, till tyrants bend to the people's dream and justice flows like a mighty stream. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire and lift our voices from the fire.
Bravo.
Okay, folks. Jean Rowe, R-O-H-E, from Brooklyn. Yeah. Who we hosted for a concert this winter. Yeah. So, folks, let's come back at 1 o'clock, and we will have
turn off the recording.
Yes, turn off the recording.